Thank you.
Perfect. Yes. So everybody that's on with us, welcome to Sage Navigation's La Marina guest speaker, our monthly guest speaker. And for the month of April, we welcome Jean, our very own Jean, Catherine just reminded me actually that, Jean, you're a member of our community because you came to one of our events and you won a La Marina membership. So we're very, very grateful that you are in our membership community. We're very grateful you're in our community as a whole. You come with a wealth of knowledge, and we're very excited to hear you speak tonight. I know I say that on behalf of others, not just myself. And just a reminder to everybody that, this is exactly what we want for our community, for our guest speaker to come in, to be able to engage and interact with everybody, to be able to answer questions if you have any. So this is all for you. This is all for us as a community. And I always say you get out of it what you put into it. So if you want to get a lot out of it, ask some questions, ask each other questions, tell each other funny things, definitely put things in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat. So if you don't want to interrupt, which was probably a wise thing, at least in the beginning, we'll let Jean do his presentation. And then at the end, there'll be time for questions. So put things into the chat if you don't want to forget what your questions are, which is something I'll probably do. And then I just want to throw it over to Catherine before we give it to Jean, because she's going to do a little intro. I think, Catherine, you just said that you've known Jean since you were in your 20s?
Yeah.
All right, you take it over.
And you know what? That's only a few years ago, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
only 40 years ago.
Yesterday.
Just yesterday. Not too many changes.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm really grateful that you're here, and I'm really grateful for the community. And before I introduce you, I really want to remind people that we all have hidden things and talents, and we know things that other people don't know. We just don't know what we know and what we don't know. And I'm always saying to people, like in our community, things happen. Like if somebody was dealing with placing a senior right now, well, Roxanne has that specialization, and she's right in our community. And, each person here, I get the benefit of knowing, and Karine gets to know, but you don't. So reach out if you're dealing with something. You have a son going to university. I have a son getting ready to go to Ottawa to study law. And you know what? Reach out to a community, and all of a sudden you've got people calling, I can meet him. I have something I can offer him. I can talk to him. I got an apartment building in Ottawa. You're going to be very surprised at where information comes. So that's how I want to start the introduction to my friend, Xiaokoa. And because over the years, in and out, we see each other, we don't. He visited me one time in Coburg, and I was really grateful. And it could be years that we don't see each other, him and his wife, and they have children. It's just lovely. And it feels like whenever I do see either of them, I feel like I'm home. They're my friends. And here's the beauty. Today, I was thinking I need collagen. And that's how I want to start the introduction. And all of a sudden I say, I know what I'm going to do. I don't know if that's good. I'm calling Jean. Jean, what do you think of collagen? And you know what? I've done that with a few things. And he'll always say what he knows. And sometimes says, I know, but let me just check something for you. Let me check. Let me get back to you. And that to me will speak to the fact he'll want to validate that he's done the work. But I want to tell you, he not only has done the work, he's an authority in this, an authority. You can go to the doctor who's a specialist. I'm going to say Jean's an authority. And what that looks like is he's read what he had to read. He's researched what he had to research. And all that to get to a point that he can now speak so that we understand the books that the average person finds boring to read, actually. And when I started to read The Mind Gut a few months back, and that's how I want to start this, I had to get the dictionary out for every few paragraphs, because what's serotonin? And I'm not shy to say I didn't know. And what's this? And what's that? And there was so much, and I was so curious. Now you want to talk about ikigai. Well, that was easy for me because I studied the philosophy of Japanese martial arts. So I understood it. So I related to it, and it was easy for me. So I want to encourage all of you to take the information. And Jean, I'm going to ask you to trust me that I've shared with this community. You are the authority. So you can skip that whole part of all those big books from Harvard that you read and all the studying you've done, and just be you delivering your expertise, knowing that we're looking forward to it. Thank you, Jean, for accepting this opportunity for us.
That's a great welcome. Thank you, Kim. It says there's no way you're going to stop me. That's not true. I don't know everything. I'm sure you're going to come on a subject which I've probably heard, I've probably read, but to tell you exactly all the nitty gritties of it, I just have to go back in my studies to refresh myself, because there's so much out there. Because I kind of expanded myself a lot, you know, just not on health, but every health, I would say, device that is out there. I went through, tested it, and I evaluate, and I come back to it and I tell it to my community on my Facebook group or through my YouTube channel. So not sure where you want to start, but basically, when I do something like this, or somebody asks me, I basically cover is what I've learned, is what I've learned through the days and time of studying, is what is good for my health moving forward. And it's different than what we go when we see the doctor. They seem to be able to, even my doctor does the same thing. She treats the problem, but doesn't look back and saying, okay, what causes this? What can you do to stop this? They're just ready to write that medication down and, solve that issue that you're having, but they don't look back. And I have great examples on myself that the doctor said, oh, you'll have to take pills for the rest of your life. I go, whoa, okay, hold on. Why is this causing it? So, going through everything, kind of figured out myself, but by reading, studies, trials, and everything like that, I got to a point to say, you know what, I'm gonna do my own blood test, but I will always, follow my doctor, just make sure that everything's right, because they got another perspective on other stuff, and they have their own website. And yeah, I do have now access to their website, which is nice because I'm able to read what they're reading. So that helps a lot too. So how can I start? Maybe I'll start with some of my problems that I have, just to give you an idea. My dad died at exactly my age that I would be right now. First heart attack at 3 bypassed at the age of 45. My own issues, I had lower back because I fell down a second-story building. I had the sore back all my life. That is gone. At 50, I started having knee pains in both knees. That's gone. At 48, my father always had chronic sinus issues. 80% of the time, I would only breathe through one nostril. It was getting normal to me, and I thought this was normal. At 53, I had a big lack of energy. I always needed that coffee in the afternoon to get me going. At 55, I started getting high pressure, had to go on medication. That's gone. At 60, they wanted me to take cholesterol pills because my cholesterol was all the way up there. That is gone. So as you could see, that's just some of it. I went through the whole thing. So where can I start? Karen talked to me about the gut. So I got a little slide together just to give you an example. So this is where I'm going to start sharing the screen. Let me just take a look, see if there's any questions before I start. Please fill in questions. Okay, great. Let me just share. How do you do this again? Share. I'm not used to Zoom, so give me a sec here. Rename, hide, choose. It's at the bottom. Okay, sorry. Share screen. There you go. This one. Let me bring a little PowerPoint in here. So yeah, before we get going, you know what? Hold on. Let me do it this way. I'll do it as a scan thing. Play, swap. Okay, we got this together. There you go. Before we get this together and move forward, this is what I see from my own doctors, from research, from trials, from more than 2 or 3 universities that I went through. Everything that I talk about, it doesn't come from me. It's not my opinion. It's basically facts that I have, and I have all the links for it. But whatever the case is moving forward, I want to make sure that, you know, whatever I say and you say, oh, this is great, I'll do this and I'll get off my medication. Please don't without your doctor. That's very important. Okay. These are only advice. So the gut, the mind gut, or the gut issue. I'm going to talk all about it a little bit for you guys to understand a bit. Let's see. Can I take this off, this thing up here? No, I can't. Okay. I'm going to talk about the pre and probiotics that people take. So at least you're able to understand that. And the guts that we have in our intestines, it's called the microbiota. Sometimes you might hear somebody say microbiome. That's the whole body, all the microbes that we have in our whole body. But the microbiota is only the intestines. So just want to clear that out because I know I had that question last week. So we have at least a minimum of 4 trillion bacteria or microbes, whatever you want to call them. I call them little critters. Okay, it's going to probably be easier to understand. And we have about 4 times that amount of red blood cells that we have in our body. If we would put them in a jar, they would weigh about 2.2 pounds, about 1 kilogram. So that's a lot of bacteria or little critters in our body. We have some bad ones and we have the good ones, but it's a great balance of, you know, microbes that we have. We have at least 1,000 to 1,150 different strains of these bacteria, these critters in our body. You know, it's when you see these probiotics and they have different strains in them. Well, you know, it's like we're always playing with the 15 normal strains, and I'll explain why. And depending on what we eat, these strains will vary and will change. 2/3 of our critters will change from person to person depending on what we eat. So you really could modify your bacteria inside your body, always depending on what you eat. And these guys are really, they're going to control a lot of stuff, as you're going to see. Diversity is really good. The good guys versus the bad guys, the good bacteria versus the bad pathogens that we have, like Lyme, E. coli, and many more. Okay, I'll skip. And when we get to different medical words, I'll stop and I'll explain so everybody understands. So if you have an unbalance or you have a bad gut, you could have chronic diarrhea, constipation, gas, bloating. These are all the simple things. Irritable bowel syndromes, and everybody heard of SIBO or leaky gut. Leaky gut is, I'll explain that, because I had that question also asked for me. What is a leaky gut? And I'll show you an example so everybody understands. More twisted problems go to immune disease, like as celiac disease, Crohn, Hashimoto, which is a lot, multiple sclerosis. Yeah, they could already create all these kind of issues because they create issues even up to immune disease. So this is the worst, but I'm not going to talk about disease because now we're really getting into, you know, a can of worms here. But just to show you that an offset microbiota with, you know, that you destroy your critters and you destroy your interlining of your intestines could create all these issues. So it's very important to keep and know to your microbiota very balanced. Sorry, I'm stumbling on my words here. For weight, let's start with weight. It is known that if the balance is not correct in the gut, 99% of the people that have an unbalanced gut are usually overweight. So that is good to know, to understand that from these critters, you will manage your weight. And that's kind of important. And, you know, I'll show you other things on that. Okay, that's kind of thing. If you have unbalanced, let me see if I could get these pictures out of the way here. I'll put them on the other side. Okay, there you go. So I'm able to read myself. If you have a nice balanced gut with good critters, it could balance your it's like a hormone protein. It's called a leptin. It will tell you when you've eaten and you had enough. Okay, so if you're eating like a big bowl of whatever you're eating and you go for a second serving and you never seem to be full, it may be an issue where your gut is unbalanced. Okay, so that's another issue. This is the one I use here in Canada. I've looked around a lot and I always come back to this one as being the easiest one to order from, and it has the most variety of what you see strains of here. Okay, these are what you call strains. Strains are like these espèces. I don't know, you would say that l'espèce species. Okay, but they call it strains in your gut. They have the most because sometimes you'll have other probiotics, they'll only have 5 strains. Some will have 6, but they'll have 80 billions. It's not the quantity that counts, okay? It's different varieties of strains. How can I put this? I put this on my Facebook group last week because somebody asked me, goes, what's the issue? Why more strains? Well, put it this way. You take a small little island, okay? And you put 100 rabbits in there and you put 10 fox on it. And that's all there is, okay? Everybody's happy. There's a symbiote, you know, the rabbits reproduce and the fox keep eating the rabbits and everything's nice. But let's say you take a probiotic with 4 or 5 strains in there, for an example. Well, and you got 80 billion of those probiotics in it. It's like you're inserting another 900 rabbits. For a while, the rabbits are going to be happy. They're going to reproduce. The foxes will have plenty of food. But after a while, what happens on that small little island? The rabbits will eat the vegetation. And if there's no more vegetation, the rabbits die. What do you think happens with a fox? So it's a whole balance of things. So looking at this, and I like this company because you know what? They have a number on all their strains, so you're able to look them up, take a look at what's happening with every strain and what they do. And, you know, we deal with only 1% of the strains that we have in our body because they are able to survive in oxygen. So they're able to work with it because 99% of the strains that we have in our gut, we don't even know what they do yet because we're not able to deal with them because they can't survive in oxygen. So there's a lot we don't know. These are just strains, just one strains of what it's able to do. It's anti-inflammatory, will help tighten the junction in your colon. What does that mean? I'm going to that. Will even help decrease precancer growth. Will inhibit bad pathogens. That's just one strain, just to give you an example what one strain is able to do. Okay. Are there better out there? Yeah. I've seen this one that comes from the US and they ship to Canada, but they're very expensive. Down here, which they should have some white stuff on the floor over here where they put it, because in this capsule, there's prebiotics, and in this capsule, there's probiotics. So there's 2 capsules to help the probiotics survive the acidity of the stomach, because that's a big problem. As soon as your probiotic goes into your stomach and it hits the acid, 99% of it dies, okay? The prebiotic, it's like fiber. It doesn't really matter. But the probiotic, it makes a big difference. That's why when I hear in yogurt, there's probiotics, it makes me laugh because it's just a marketing scheme, really, to tell you the truth. Unfortunately, they put the probiotics, like let's say 1 billion or whatever in there. And then they pasteurize it with the yogurt. And pasteurize means intense heat. They kill 80% of the probacteria in there. There's nothing much. So really just the probacteria in yogurt, to tell you the truth, it's just there to help you from bloating, you know, stop you from bloating. That's about it, because it doesn't do anything to your gut. So Is there really a yogurt out there that does it? Yeah, there's 3 types, but they're in the US. They're not sold here in Canada. But again, when they hit the acidity of your stomach, which is as much as an acid in a battery, in a car battery, not much survives. So 4 species in this one, the bacteria is 1 billion, but they don't make it through the gut alive because, again, the acidity in your stomach. So the second brain, I'm sure some of you have heard that, and I've had this question so many times, or the gut to mind, or whatever it's called. What, do we have neurons? Is there something intelligent in there? Basically, it's your critters talking or giving information through a certain nerve that goes directly to your brain, and that's about it. But there's a communication continuously between your brain and your gut. So your gut's not happy, your brain's not happy. Your brain's not happy, your gut will be not happy. How does it travel? It travels through a vagus nerve that we have over here, where you see it goes right to the hypothalamus. You know, it's like a small little part of the brain, and it goes directly back through and connects through your intestines to your gut. And the critters, the information that talks in there is transferred to your brain, and some of the nutrition and all that kind of stuff travels along the brain. So there's a lot of communication that goes around there. That's why they call it the second brain. As you could see here, how it connects to several parts of the body, your liver and everything like that. So that vagus nerve is really connected throughout your body, and it listens to everything in your body. So the critters in your intestines, in your gut, they speak a lot to your brain. So yeah, if that vagus nerve is hijacked by an unbalanced of critters, of bad critters, of pathogens in your intestines, well, then you will have, as you see here, mood swings. You're slowing down the metabolism, influence of rewards, your satiety. Things will start going bad, and you will start feeling, your mood will start lowering. Okay, so yeah, this is when they say the connection mind. Okay, that word serotonin that Kim was talking about. Let's go into that. Oh, brain issues that may be caused by leaky brain. Okay, bacteria that comes from or goes up from your intestines will give you headaches, memory loss, brain fog, depression, anxiety. And I heard you the first time on our first conference, you were talking about ADHA. Yeah, that's an imbalance of gut also. You balance all that out and you get rid of almost completely of that. That's how we did it with our own kid, because I got a story behind that with Julian, because at that time, he was like jumping around the class, and there was nothing going straight. His writing was even crooked, and looking at going to see the doctor, it's like, yeah, we'll have to put him on medication. I told my wife, I go, there's no way I'm putting my kid on medication. Even that type of medication that they put these kids on, it reduces their growth hormones, so they stop growing a lot, and it makes a big difference. After a year, you see he hasn't grown much, and I go, there's just no way. We'll find out, and we'll change the way he eats. And after 1 year, after changing and all that kind of stuff, it's amazing how it was day and night. I remember in grade 9, he was the first of his school. We have pictures of him going up there, and they're giving, these plaques and everything like that. So it went from day to night, the changes completely, just by changing his food, sugar, taking care of a lot of things. BBB is not the Better Business Bureau, but it's the brain-blood barrier. Okay, we all have a barrier our brain has, and it's about a couple of millimeters thick, and it stops everything from coming in, into your brain. So it blocks a lot of things, but unfortunately, through that nerve and what your gut is bringing into, it's unfortunately, it passes through and gives you all these effects. Okay, so let's move on and let's talk about the neurotransmitters a bit. So your gut, It produces all type of neurotransmitters. When they take apart your food, it creates, and one of them is the serotonin. What is serotonin? Well, serotonin is required, it's a hormone in your brain, and it's required to create melatonin for you to sleep. But when you're not using melatonin, you're using serotonin, it's the happy drug. It's the happy hormone. Serotonin will have a great effect on you and make you happy throughout the day, will calm you down. 90% of it is created from your gut. So kind of important to know what you're eating, how good you're eating, to create this, to have plenty of it, having a calm attitude, have a connectivity that's, your brain's alert, and having enough for at night that you're able to create your melatonin to be able to sleep. Calms you down, increases your mood, controls your hunger, increases your connective health. So that's a lot, just from your gut alone. Here's how it goes. You eat, food's brought in, protein. The brain doesn't like it that way. It changes it to whatever that hormone is, 5-HTP. I'm not going to even try to say the full word because it's like 20 words long. It changes it and then uses it on serotonin, and serotonin during the night uses it as melatonin. So at least you got an idea there, what it does. And I put a little schematic that when I'm talking about sleep, I'm talking about a certain product, how it brings in, like let's say tryptophan that you find in pumpkin seeds, how it goes through your blood-brain barrier, how it goes through and the brain changes it, but you need magnesium and plenty of vitamin B to be able to modify this and change it to serotonin, and then change it to melatonin at night when it's dark. So at least you have just a great, fast general idea of how it goes through your brain. And this is what most people don't even have an idea what it is. Leaky gut, what is that? Well, remember this picture? Let me go back. There you go. See these things? These little round things? Well, they're tight. They're tight together, okay? And they got very, very, very small little spaces between each finger, which they let pass certain foods, certain nutrition, proteins, which are broken down. Very, very small. The finest of the glucose at a simple level, they will let pass through. And it's digested, broken down even more and more and more as they go on during the day throughout your gut, and it's then absorbed again. But with bad food comes bad pathogen. Bad pathogen will break the bonds between these things, these little things that you see on the screen, that are orange. And more there's space, more there's bad things that pass through, and they go into your bloodstream. Let me go back to the stream. Yeah, there you go. So you see, good food over here, bad food, pathogens, leaky gut. These little hairs that you've seen will reduce about 1/3 their size up to 2/3 their size. And between them, they will have some spacing and they just go into your immune vagus system, circulation. And then you start getting problems because what happens is like you get all these things that will go through and go into your bloodstreams. I have another example here. Good food, tight over here. Bad food, fast food, ultra transformed food, and all that, how it reacts on your gut, which after it separates and what they call leaky gut. So Kim, now you know what a leaky gut is. Oh, I had the screen there. Okay.
I think it's wonderful that you explain it like that. That, now I guess to say, you've also explained why we don't want a leaky gut, which is very important because, it's very complicated. It'll be very interesting. Questions will be asked, I'm sure. How do we make that cycle so natural and easy? What are a couple of things we could do? But we'll get to that later. Continue. It's fabulous now. Thank you.
Yeah, the unseparables, the non-negotiables, I call them. Yeah, I'll talk about that. Yeah, that was just a size to show you when pathogens start going through. This is a glucose molecule, which is sugar. Glucose equals sugar. At the simplest level, 1 grain, 1 molecule, how small this is compared to a pathogen, just to show you. A normal gut will let this through, but it won't let this stuff through. But when you have a leaky gut, it will start letting this through. And you're talking 30,000 times your leaky gut has separated and is starting to damage itself. Is there a way to fix it? Yeah. Remember that this one helps you to tight junctions in your colon. There you go. That's only one of the strands. We're talking 15 strands in the, the ones I was talking about. Okay, sorry about that. I went a little bit too fast there. Prebiotics. Some of you may have heard of this before. They've done, and this is new, this came out not too long ago. They're starting to do tests on this, a prebiotic. They took a bunch of people which were having trouble to sleep at night. They would sleep only 80% of their time, and 21% of the time they would not sleep properly. Okay. After 1 week of taking prebiotics, it went up to 92% and only 8% that they would have issues of not sleeping. That's a big increase only after 1 week. Sorry. Some people are going to ask me, okay, where do I find prebiotics? There you go. I'll remove my cursor. At least you guys could freeze it when you come, when you re-listen to this, how do you say that, this video. These are some of the things that are high in prebiotics. Best food for your gut, green tea. Here you go. I put some of them together, which are really, really, good for it, which are in the stage of prebiotics and stage of probiotics. Yeah, I want to explain because most of these prebiotics are fiber. And obviously a fiber, some will say, yeah, but there's fibers, some of them you can't absorb. Some fiber will just go right through you and you can't absorb. Yeah, that's what you call the insoluble fiber up down here. Helps you move through your intestines. And some is a soluble fiber. Those are the ones that are good for your critters. They're food for your critters. They drive on that. So you got to feed them. You got to feed them the good stuff. What you see on the right-hand side, or what we've looked at, the good stuff. Because if not, if you don't feed them, the bad guys, which are balanced, are going to take over. And that's when the problems start arising. I hope it's straightforward by that time, okay? Bad or not, I can't really see.
Yeah, if you're looking for feedback, that's exactly the stuff we need in here, is the simplified. Like, it's great you showed us, and that is the stuff that is like, we don't have to go take pills. We don't have to. So thank you.
Bad or really bad for our body? Well, yeah, unfortunately, we all know every molecule of alcohol is bad for our body. Every molecule. Okay. Some will say, well, isn't this alcohol healthy? No. Every alcohol molecule in any glass of any alcohol drink is toxic for your body, for every cell. But that said, 1 glass wine per week, sorry, that's as far as it goes. I can't tell you more than that. Will actually give a boost and change your microbiota and good bacteria and critters and modify them in a good way. So yeah, your liver will take care of the toxic part, but at least the rest of it will modify your bacteria. So not more than 1 glass. Sugar, I'd say if you can, but it's impossible. There's like 66 types of sugars out there now. It's very hard to try to decipher for them. Even you got some fructose and into fruits and everything like that. It's almost impossible to get away from it. But if you can, try to stay under 20 grams per day, because we don't need sugar to live. We don't need, our body is able to create it from fat. No gluten. Even if you don't have celiac disease or you're not tolerant, try to stay away from it, because with time, it does have an irritation in your gut, and you will have, or you will create with long term, if you're that type of person and you got those type of molecules inside, you will create a tolerance to it, and that's when issues may start. So that's a suggestion. Artificial sweetener, that's said all over the place. Stay away from that. Ultra transformed food, that too. Low simple carbs. What's a low simple carb, Jean? Or what's a multiple carb or a complex carb? What are these things? Low simple carbs is like what you would find in a pasta, you know, spaghetti or something like that, with white refined, you know, la farine, flour,
Flour.
flour. Sorry, I did this in French. I'm looking for my English word sometimes.
Perfect.
No processed food. You stay away from that as much as possible. When you can't explain or say a word that you're reading on the thing, it's going to affect your gut in a bad way. Okay. So those are things to diminish. That's the little cat from my daughter. I thought he was sleeping so good, so I used it for my sleep thing. The microbiome is one that calculates the amount of calories that the body will need to absorb from the food we eat. Read that again and think about it. The microbiota, your critters, will be the one that calculates the amount of calories that our body will need to absorb from the food we eat. So that means if you don't sleep properly that night, for an example, your critters are going to say, hey, whoa, he's tired. He's missing energy. So you know what? Out of this dish that we ate, we basically need only 40% and we'll dish the rest. But today we'll absorb 80%. But it's not true. It's just like you didn't sleep properly, but you don't need that energy because you're going to be sitting down all day on the computer. So where does that extra 40% go? It's transformed and pushed into your gut. That's where we gain weight. 5 nutritions play an important role in microbiota: dietary fiber, prebiotics, probiotics, propylene, okay, which is like almost like what you see in wine there, but you have in soya, things like that, and good fats. And I say good fats because it doesn't mean bacon or things like that, but good fats like good oil, like avocado oil, olive, extra fine oil, pressed only once, avocados, coconut, you know, things like that, you know, the good oils. Yeah, so when we come to that, it's like, oh, it's full of butter. Yeah, I'm allowed to take bacon and all these things. When you see some of these programs on Dr. Oz, it's like completely ridiculous. I don't even eat bacon. You know, I stay away from it because it's not a good fat. We're talking good fats. Those are good nutrition for your critters. So, Jean, where do I eat? On top, it's written that, but I can't see it, but I remember by therefore, what can we eat? Yeah, you drive a hard bargain if you're just showing water. No, it's just not water. It's just to give you examples, okay? Over here. So basically, I just show you one day, and sometimes I do from Monday to Thursday. Some of the things I may eat. I get myself 3 eggs, a bit of cheese. I choose my cheese wisely. 1 full avocado in the morning with a coffee. And then in the afternoon, I'll take turkey. I take turkey because of the good oils and bad oils. Today, unfortunately, the bad oils are really high. And unfortunately, the chicken doesn't deal with the bad LDL as good as the turkey does. It seems to be eliminated a lot more, even though they eat the same thing, but it doesn't come out the same. So turkey, I eat a lot. I do eat meat, I do eat chicken, but turkey is one of my main meals. You'll have in the morning over here, if you calculate, about 28 grams of protein. In the afternoon, you'll have about 30 grams of protein over here. In the afternoon, I'll take some nuts. The bowl looks bigger than it is, but basically you got about 50 grams in there, which will give me about 15, 20 grams, not even, of protein. And then at night, a little bit of cheese and a fish, which will complete a 30 gram. I look for my daily protein intake, which I think is so important. That's one of the most important things that I concentrate on. I concentrate on my daily protein just to make sure that I have 1.2 grams of protein per my mass. So I get about 78 to 90 grams of protein. I concentrate on 90 grams of protein per day. Okay, that's important for me, depending on my weight. Somebody who weighs differently is going to be different. That I have in other presentation. If you ever want to know, I'll go through it. When I run through a fasting, I fast from Monday to Friday. So I increase my protein intake on certain meals just to make sure that I'm able to attain my 90 grams of protein per day in my whatever I take. At night, I may go for a big salad like this. We fix it up on Sunday night and we eat most of this. But in there, I have these two different type of fish that you could choose from because they're very high in omega-3 and very low in omega-6. I have my extra virgin oil that I put in there. I have my pumpkin seeds, which are the highest in the vegetable arena. You know, you take pumpkin seed, they're like 35 grams of protein compared to anything on the market or on the vegetable world. Avocados, broccolis, you have all kind of leafy greens in there. I mix it all, and that's what I have for night. So it's easy to digest since it's fish, grains, and that's it. I have over 34 grams of protein in there alone. We started on the weekends because my weekends is cheat day. We started looking at spaghetti, kosher spaghetti, kosher spaghetti. You're mute.
Spaghetti squash.
There you go. Thank you. And I started looking on keto for other recipes. There's over 50 recipes, and at least 30 of those were good. So yeah, it's not because you're diminishing a little bit of carbs or things like that, and increasing protein and your veggies and all that, that there's no recipes out there. It's amazing the amount of good recipes that you could find on keto world. I say it's not because I'm on a keto diet, but I really brought down my carbs to complex carbs when I exercise, but I keep my dish to 75% leafy greens, vegetables, to 25% my protein. So that's a basic rule for me.
Wait, Jean, can you repeat that? Sorry.
For this, yeah. One rule that I keep for myself is when I don't have cheat days, I keep my meals to 75% veggies, to 25% on my plate to protein, but always making sure that with the protein that I have in my dish amounts to at least 30 grams because I got 90 grams to get. And if I'm fasting during that day, I'm missing the morning meal. I'm starting only in the afternoon. So I got so much time to grab these 90 grams during my period up to 8 or 9 o'clock, before I start eating. I stop eating because, after that, just you got to give your time, your body to adapt, to go sleep, to tell them, hey, you finish eating. It's time to go sleep. So yeah, that's my basic rule. If I miss a meal, I'll just take myself an organic protein mix with 30 grams of protein in it with coconut milk in it. I find my 30 grams easily there. These are just snacks if you're into that. This is how much vitamins we need for the day. Not much, huh? Basically, I put it together just for laughs. This would be as much as you would need to eat for one day to have 100 grams of protein and all the vitamins that you need for a full day. Just to show you how much we overeat. Remember your book, Kim? 80% these Japanese eat? Well, instead of having a big dish, think of it. This is what I told you were there. You take a big bowl of spaghetti, you eat that, the carbs that are in there, it's 90% of the carbs and sugar that is in there will be stored in your gut, and only 10% will be used for that. So imagine you just take a medium-sized spaghetti bowl, 90% gets stored in your gut right away. So it's to think.
And that's why spaghetti squash is wonderful, because if you like a sauce and you stick it over, you do your spaghetti squash, it feels and it substitutes well.
Yeah, it feels like spaghetti, and on top of it, it's like 5 grams of carbs in it. It's like ridiculous. And if you're like me, I buy my own meat, that is done, that's not worked or anything like that. I have that on my website, which I explain the meat I take, and I grind it myself to make my own meat and put enough fat in it for depending on what I want to use it for. So when I use my meat, it's exactly what I want. And then I put tomatoes and I put my spices, and I make that squash spaghetti from it. It's really good. These, just to show you the pumpkin seed, how high they were in the grains. But again, don't forget this. All that you see here is not a complete protein. If you think you're going to have 30 grams of protein during your day, the meat and all these kind of things are complete proteins, but this is not a complete protein. You need to substitute with something else to combine it to make it a complete protein. That's where a lot of people don't get enough protein for the whole body. And is there something for that? That's one of my charts that I'm going to put on my site, my book, which I'm going to be erasing and starting all over again because everything changed so far. So I'm going to start all this over, but this gives you the amount of carbs. But talking about protein, hold on, do I have that? I don't have that slide. Do I have
I'm
it?
very disappointed.
Okay.
That potato up there at 2.5, that's not going to work for me.
No, that's a lot of starch, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
that's what I live on is potatoes.
Yeah, I haven't touched potatoes, I think, in a year. It's off my diet completely. If I want to cheat or I want to go something, I'll try quinoa. Quinoa, which is the 4th one. The protein's not high, but I said this wasn't a complete protein, and I mistake. Quinoa is a complete protein.
Quinoa, right?
Quinoa, what quinoa, right?
Okay.
Soya, tofu, hemp, and that's pretty much it in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have a big leaky gut.